parents demanded that I give my golden child sister the $30,000 that I saved up for my college for her to buy an apartment. I, 22F, never thought I'd be making one of these posts, but here I am, still in shock and disbelief over what just happened. Some background: I'm the eldest of two daughters. My sister, Lily, 20F, has always been the golden child in our family. Don't get me wrong, I love her, but our parents have always favored her in ways that were impossible to ignore. She's the pretty one, the social butterfly, the one with the bright future. I'm more of an introvert, focused on my studies and working part-time jobs since I was 16. I remember the day I got my first job. I was so excited to tell my parents, thinking they'd be proud of my initiative. Instead, Mom just said, "That's nice, dear," before turning to gush over Lily's latest school play performance. Dad barely looked up from his newspaper. It stung, but I told myself it didn't matter. I was doing this for me, not for their approval. Speaking of jobs, that's where this story really begins. For the past 6 years, I've been working my ass off, saving every penny I could for college. My parents made it clear early on that they wouldn't be able to contribute much to my education, so I took it upon myself to make it happen. Weekends? Working. Summers? Working. Any free time I had was spent either studying or earning money. I worked as a waitress at the local diner, a cashier at the grocery store, a tutor for younger kids, and even spent a summer as a lifeguard at the community pool. Each paycheck was carefully budgeted, with most of it going straight into my savings account. By the time I graduated high school, I had managed to save up $30,000 for my college fund. Now, I know what you're thinking: why didn't I just take out student loans? Well, I've seen how crippling student debt can be, and I was determined to avoid it if I could. My best friend's older sister graduated college with over $100,000 in debt, and 5 years later, she's still living paycheck to paycheck, barely making a dent in what she owes. I didn't want that for myself. Plus, I had this crazy idea that my parents would be proud of my hard work and dedication. Spoiler alert, I was wrong. Fast forward to last week. I'm home for the summer, preparing to start college in the fall. Lily, who's been living at home and attending community college, drops a bombshell at dinner: she's pregnant. The father? Her boyfriend of 3 months, a 25-year-old aspiring musician named Jake, who lives in his parents' basement. You could have heard a pin drop in our dining room. Then, all hell broke loose. Mom started crying, Dad started yelling, and Lily just sat there with a mixture of defiance and fear on her face. I, being the supportive big sister, tried to calm everyone down and suggested we all take a breath and discuss this rationally. "How could you be so irresponsible?" Dad roared, his face turning an alarming shade of red. "I'm not a child, Dad," Lily shot back, though her trembling voice betrayed her bravado. "I can make my own decisions." Mom was sobbing into her hands. "My baby. Having a baby," she wailed. "What will the neighbors think?" I rolled my eyes at that. Leave it to Mom to worry about the neighbors at a time like this. "Guys, come on," I said, trying to be the voice of reason. "What's done is done. We need to figure out how to move forward." That's when things took a turn I never saw coming. Mom, wiping away her tears, suddenly turned to me with this look in her eyes. It was a look I'd seen before, usually when she was about to ask me to do something for Lily. "Honey," she said, her voice sickeningly sweet, "you know how hard this is going to be for your sister. She needs a stable place to live, to raise her baby." I nodded, not sure where this was going. "Maybe we could help her find an affordable apartment?" I suggested. Dad cleared his throat. "Actually, we've been looking at apartments for her already. There's a nice 2-bedroom place not far from here. It would be perfect for Lily and the baby." "That's great," I said, still not understanding why they were telling me this. Mom reached across the table and took my hand. "Sweetie, we know you've been saving up for college. But your sister, she needs this more than you do right now. We were hoping you could give her your savings so she could put a down payment on the apartment." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "What?" I whispered, certain I had misheard. Dad jumped in. "It's $30,000 for the down payment. We know that's exactly what you've saved. It's perfect, really. You can always take out student loans for college, but Lily needs this now. She's going to be a mother." I looked at Lily, expecting her to protest, to say this was crazy. Instead, she was staring at me with hopeful eyes. "Please, sis," she said softly. "I don't know what I'm going to do otherwise." I pulled my hand away from Mom's and stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Are you all out of your minds?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Do you have any idea how hard I worked for that money? How many hours I put in, how many sacrifices I made?" Mom's face hardened. "Now, don't be selfish. This is your niece or nephew we're talking about. Family comes first." "Family comes first?" I repeated incredulously. Where was that sentiment when I was working double shifts to save for my education? Where was it when I missed out on high school experiences because I was always working? Dad stood up too, his voice rising. "Young lady, you will not speak to your mother that way. We're asking you to do the right thing here. Your sister needs this more than you do." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The room started to spin, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. Without another word, I turned and ran up to my room, slamming the door behind me. As I sat on my bed, trying to process what had just happened, I could hear them downstairs. Mom was crying again, Dad was ranting about my selfishness, and Lily was quiet. I pulled out my phone, my hands shaking as I texted my best friend, "Sarah, you're not going to believe what just happened." Sarah called me immediately, and I spilled everything. "They can't be serious," she said, sounding as shocked as I felt. "That's your money. You worked so hard for it." "I know," I said, my voice cracking. "But they're making me feel like I'm the bad guy here. Am I being selfish?" "Absolutely not," Sarah said firmly. "You've been saving for years. It's not your responsibility to bail out your sister because of her choices." We talked for hours, with Sarah reassuring me that I had every right to keep my money. By the time we hung up, I felt a little better, but I was dreading facing my family the next day. The next few days were a nightmare. My parents alternated between guilt-tripping me and giving me the silent treatment. Lily would corner me whenever she could, tearfully pleading for my help. "Don't you care about your niece or nephew?" she'd ask, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. It was emotional manipulation at its finest, and I felt myself wavering more than once. One afternoon, I overheard Mom on the phone with her sister, my Aunt Carol. "I just don't know what to do," Mom was saying. "She's being so stubborn. Doesn't she understand that family needs to stick together?" I felt my blood boil. Grabbing my keys, I stormed out of the house, ignoring Mom's calls after me. I drove to the park where I used to play as a kid, finding a quiet spot by the lake. As I sat there, skipping stones across the water, I thought about all the times I'd put my family first. All the times I'd babysat Lily for free so my parents could have date nights. All the times I'd tutored her in math and science without complaint. All the sacrifices I'd made, often without anyone even noticing. But every time I considered giving in, I'd remember all those late nights at the diner, all those weekends spent tutoring instead of hanging out with friends, all those summers working at the local grocery store instead of relaxing. 6 years of my life, all leading up to this moment. I couldn't just throw it all away, could I? On the third day after the blow-up, I was in my room, researching student loans, just in case, when there was a knock at my door. It was Dad. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice uncharacteristically soft. I nodded, bracing myself for another round of guilt-tripping. But to my surprise, he sat down on my bed and sighed heavily. "I owe you an apology," he said, shocking me into silence. "What we asked of you. It wasn't fair. Your mother and we've been so worried about Lily and this whole situation that we lost sight of what's right." I felt a lump forming in my throat. "Dad, He held up a hand to stop me. "Let me finish. You've always been the responsible one, the one we never had to worry about. And I think we took advantage of that. We put too much on your shoulders, expected too much from you." Tears were streaming down my face now, years of pent-up emotions finally breaking free. Dad pulled me into a hug, something he hadn't done in years. "Your college fund is yours," he said firmly. "You worked hard for it, and you deserve to use it for your education. We'll figure something else out for Lily." I sobbed into his shoulder, feeling a weight lift off my chest. When I finally calmed down, I asked the question that had been nagging at me. What made you change your mind? Dad looked embarrassed. Your Aunt Carol called. Apparently, you texted your cousin about what happened and she told her mom. Carol read us the riot act, made us see how unfair we were being. Sometimes it takes an outsider's perspective to see the truth. I made a mental note to send Aunt Carol a thank you card. Or maybe a fruit basket. Hell, after this, I'd buy her a car if I could afford it. The next family dinner was tense, to say the least. Mom still seemed resentful, shooting me dirty looks when she thought I wasn't looking. Lily was sulking, pushing her food around her plate. Dad cleared his throat and announced that they'd be taking out a second mortgage on the house to help Lily with the apartment down payment. That's not fair to you guys, I found myself saying. Maybe I could. I don't know, contribute a little bit? Not the whole amount, but maybe I could spare a couple thousand to help out. The look of surprise and gratitude on Dad's face made me glad I'd offered. Mom's expression softened slightly, and Lily burst into tears, though that could have been the pregnancy hormones. That's very generous of you, Dad said. But your money is for your future. We'll handle this. As the weeks passed, things slowly started to return to normal, or as normal as they could be with a pregnant sister and impending college departure looming over us. Lily's boyfriend, Jake, finally stepped up, getting a real job at a local music store and contributing to the apartment fund. It wasn't much, but it was something. One evening, I found Lily sitting alone on the back porch, staring into the distance. I sat down next to her, and we were quiet for a moment. I'm sorry, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. I never meant for any of this to happen. I sighed. I know, Lil. It's been hard, you know? I've always felt like I was in your shadow, and then for Mom and Dad to ask me to give up everything I've worked for. Lily turned to me, her eyes filled with tears. I never realized. I mean, I knew Mom and Dad favored me, but I didn't know how much it hurt you. I've been so selfish. We talked for hours that night, really talked, in a way we hadn't since we were kids. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start. The day I left for college was bittersweet. As I loaded up my car, I caught Lily watching me from her window. I waved, and after a moment's hesitation, she waved back. Mom hugged me stiffly, whispering, "Take care of yourself," in a voice that almost sounded like she meant it. Dad hugged me too, slipping an envelope into my hand as he did. "A little extra for books and supplies," he said with a wink. "Don't tell your mother." As I drove away, I felt a mix of emotions I couldn't quite name. Relief, excitement, lingering anger, and a touch of guilt all swirled together in my chest. But mostly, I felt proud. Proud that I'd stood my ground, proud that I'd worked so hard to get here, and proud that despite everything, I still wanted to help my family. I don't know what the future holds. Will Lily step up and become a responsible mother? Will my parents finally see me as more than just the reliable daughter? Will I make it through college without drowning in instant ramen? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, I'm going to make the most of this opportunity. Every class, every late-night study session, every new experience. I'm going to appreciate it all. Because I know exactly what it cost to get here. As I pulled into the college parking lot, my phone buzzed with a text from Lily. "Good luck, sis. I'm sorry for everything. Make us proud." I smiled, feeling a glimmer of hope for our relationship. Then I turned off my phone, grabbed my bags, and stepped into my future, the future I'd worked so hard to secure. Epilogue. It's been 4 years since that tumultuous summer. I'm graduating college next month, and believe it or not, my whole family is coming to the ceremony. Lily had a beautiful baby girl, Sophia, who's now 3 in the light of our family's life. She and Jake got married last year in a small ceremony. He's still working at the music store, but he's been promoted to manager, and they're doing okay. The apartment our parents helped them get has become a cozy home. Mom and Dad. Well, we're still working on our relationship. They've come a long way in recognizing their favoritism and how it affected me. We've had many frank discussions, some tears, and even a few laughs about it all. It's not perfect, but it's better. As for me? I'm graduating with honors and already have a job lined up in my field. That $30,000 I saved? It made a huge difference. I'll still have some student loans to pay off, but nothing like what it could have been. Looking back, I'm glad I stood my ground. It wasn't easy, and there were times I doubted myself, but it taught me an important lesson about self-worth and the power of perseverance. To anyone out there facing a similar situation, remember, it's okay to put yourself first sometimes. Your dreams matter. Your hard work matters. And you matter. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a graduation robe to try on and a future to step into. Wish me luck. Final update. Hey Reddit. It's been a while since my last post, and a lot has happened. I thought I'd give you all an update, since so many of you were supportive and asked for one. First off, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post and the follow-up. Your words of encouragement and support really helped me through a tough time. I read every comment, and they gave me strength when I needed it most. So, where are we now? Buckle up, because life has taken some unexpected turns. I graduated college 2 years ago, with honors, and I've been working in my field ever since. That $30,000 I saved? It made a world of difference. I still had to take out some loans, but nothing like what it could have been. I'm on track to have them paid off in the next few years. Now, for the family drama you're all probably curious about. Lily and Jake are still together, believe it or not. They got married when Sophia, my niece, was 2, in a small ceremony in our parents' backyard. Jake has really stepped up. He's still working at the music store, but he's now the manager and taking night classes in business administration. Lily finished her degree online and is working part-time as a preschool teacher. They're not rolling in money, but they're stable and Sophia is happy and healthy. Speaking of Sophia, she's 5 now and an absolute firecracker. Smart as a whip and not afraid to speak her mind. Wonder where she gets that from? I never thought I'd be the doting aunt type, but here we are. We have a weekly video call where I read her bedtime stories, and it's honestly become one of the highlights of my week. My parents. Well, that's been a journey. After the initial drama, we went through a rough patch. There were a lot of tense family dinners and passive-aggressive comments. But slowly, things started to change. I think seeing me succeed in college and then in my career made them realize what I had been capable of all along. The real turning point came about a year ago. Mom found some old photo albums and spent a weekend going through them. She called me in tears, apologizing for all the times she'd missed my achievements because she was so focused on Lily. It was a hard conversation, but a necessary one. Dad and I had a similar heart-to-heart a few months later. He admitted that he had always seen me as the strong one who didn't need as much attention or support. He realized how unfair and damaging that was, and he's been working on changing that perspective. We're not perfect, but we're better. We have family therapy sessions once a month, via video call since I live in a different state now, and it's helping us all communicate better and understand each other's perspectives. Oh, and remember Aunt Carol? The one who called my parents out for their behavior? She's become my biggest cheerleader. We talk regularly, and she's like the mom I always wished I had. She even flew out to attend my college graduation. As for me, I'm doing well. My job is challenging but rewarding, and I've made some great friends. I'm even dating someone who understands and respects my background and ambitions. Looking back, I'm so glad I stood my ground about my savings. It wasn't just about the money, it was about valuing myself and my hard work. That decision set the tone for how I would advocate for myself in the future, both with my family and in other areas of my life. To anyone out there facing a similar situation, stay strong. Your dreams matter. Your hard work matters. You matter. It might be hard, and there might be fallout, but standing up for yourself is worth it in the long run. Life isn't perfect. My relationship with my family is still a work in progress, and there are still moments of tension and old habits creeping back in. But we're all trying, and that counts for something. Thank you again, Reddit, for being there when I needed support the most. Your kindness and advice made a real difference in my life. Here's to the future, whatever it may bring.